Today I'm making a dress that I've actually been wanting to make for a really long time. It's based off of the Gillmen from Creature from the Black Lagoon. So the first thing I did was pattern for a week to try and get the fit of this the way I wanted, but then I cut out all of my pieces, including these peplum pieces, which I'm now painting the highlight edge on. This color was mixed to go with the main dress fabric, but I wanted the colors of the paint to be the same across, so it's not a perfect match for the peplum and ruffle pieces, but it works well enough. So this bottom edge is the highlight color, as I mentioned, and that's going on the larger curves, which are peplums, and the smaller curves, which are shoulder ruffles. And that lightest green just goes along the bottom edge. I'm not being very super precise since I am trying to emulate a natural creature, so nature's not very precise for the most part. This darker is just my shadow color. It's going at the tops. And then I've got this mid-tone that I'm going in and adding sort of a ridge texture by just sort of roughly brushing up. Once again, keeping it nice and random-ish. I mean, humans have a hard time with random, but I did my best. Now I am painting the skirt. Well, I'm marking out where I will be painting the skirt. I'm constructing this skirt with inverted box pleats instead of darts, so I wanted to get the paint on before I shaped the skirt so that I didn't have to paint over pleated fabric. So I just went and marked every 4 inches a horizontal stripe, and then in the center I did the little notch up to emulate the creature's belly, the Gillman's belly pattern of his plates. And what I'm doing right now, sorry there's so much of my back in these shots, but what I'm doing now is taking that lighter highlight color on the top of all the lines I've marked out to use it as a highlight to emulate the bottom of a plate. So it's catching more sunlight as the bottom of a scaled plate. I hope that makes some semblance of sense. And now I'm going in with that darkest green and following the same lines, going directly underneath it to act as shadow. The inspiration for this dress came years ago. I was costuming a production of The Little Mermaid, and we needed a dance pant to act as an interim piece between her tail and her legs, and back the other way. So I made her a dance pant that was painted with scales and had these ruffles on the leg openings, and it just was like so Creature from the Black Lagoon to me. saw the movie. It was the first horror movie I ever saw. Actually, if you want to hear more about that, go check out the podcast episode that I have released on the podcast I record with my buddy Ian, Casual Cinephilia. I'll link it in the description. But it just reminded me so much of, like, it had so much potential to be a Creature from the Black Lagoon swimsuit bottom, which I hope to also make sometime soon, so stick around till summer maybe. With those leg ruffles, they were very gill-like, and I've been stewing on this dress ever since. Here I'm starting to piece the bodice and the bodice lining. They're made out of the same fabric, so it's hard to tell them apart in this video, but it's a princess seamed bodice, so the front is 3 panels, the back is 4 panels, and then you stitch them at the shoulders and leave the sides open so you can attach it to we'll call this one the lining, and the second one the exterior bodice. You might notice that I'm ironing a lot. The secret to sewing is ironing. I swear to God, everything I've ever sewn took like a 500% quality jump when I started ironing all of my seams as I sewed. It's insane how much of a difference it really makes. So if you're wanting to sew something like this, iron all of your seams every single time you sew one. And get a tailor's ham. Those little tailor hams are really great for ironing things like the curved hem or the curved seams I have to do on princess darted busts. Now I'm just going in and sewing the little gill ruffle pieces right sides together and flipping them out and ironing them flat. Then I'm just pinking the edge with my pinking shears. It just creates a whole bunch of tiny little notches. I cannot remember where I learned that from, but it's a great tip if you're having to turn little curves. Just use pinking shears instead of cutting a million tiny little notches. Alright, so here I have pinned the lining and the exterior bodice together along the armholes and the neck hole. So here's an armhole here. So this will be the outside edge of the armhole once it is sewn and turned out. So the little shoulder frill is pinned in between that seam there. And then I'm just sewing it all the way around the pinned edges. And then you've got to go in and clip all of the curved seam allowances in this. I've already gone in and done that. You can see little notches if you look closely. And then I'm turning it out. So you go from the front and pull the back panels through the shoulders. It takes a little bit of finesse to get it turned without tearing anything apart. But there it is. And now we need to sew up the side seams. So you flatten out the bodice on the side. This is really hard to explain with how fast I made the video footage. Basically, the first half you see there is the lining, the second half is the exterior bodice. We've flattened them so they join at the armhole and sewn that seam all the way down. So then it gets folded right side out and it's sealed up the armhole and both of those side seams with one quick seam. So there goes the lining piece, and then we're moving on to the exterior shell. Iron that seam open. Flip it right side out. And then iron that armhole flat. I have gone around off camera and ironed all of the edges flat. Now I have the skirt pinned to the bodice and I'm sewing that on. I'm sewing it right sides together, skirt to exterior bodice, and leaving the lining layer unattached. I also have sandwiched those peplums in this seam over the side seams. There we go, the peplum is in there. Alright, now I have it out here for painting. What I'm doing now is marking where I want my plate lines to be, keeping in mind that I'll be wearing it with a belt, so I haven't done one at the waistline, and that the Gilman's plates are shaped differently on his chest than on his stomach. So I've got this on, the only dress form I own is a dress form that fit me when I was about 12. So I have covered it up with just a ton of batting and forced the dress on over it, because the main thing with this was keeping the fabric taut so I could paint on it. It didn't need to be an exact replica of my body shape for this application. And of course I've covered it with a garbage bag so all the batting is usable and not covered in weird paint residue. And once again I'm doing the top of those lines with the highlight green color, and I will be going in a moment and doing the bottom with the shadow color. There's that shadow color. If you notice the light changing on the garbage bag's reflection, that's because I am re-watching the first season of The Mandalorian while painting this. This took about an hour to paint, just this part. So I wanted to catch up on that show because the new season premieres today, the day this video is released. So I am ready. Now I'm going in with that mid-tone green and adding those ridge line textures. And then the dress sat on the dress form to dry overnight. And here it is. I like this dress. I think it's really cute. There are a few things that I would do differently were I to do it again, which I just might. Not soon, but maybe a few Halloweens down the line. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Alright, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw and would like to see more, hit that subscribe button. If you want to see what I was up to yesterday, the video is linked for you on the screen.